Military justice, two words that have sealed the fate of countless soldiers across history. But some executions cut so deep, they change the world forever. When armies turn their weapons on their own, when commanders become executioners, when politics masquerade as justice. These are not ordinary military deaths. These are the executions that shattered kingdoms, triggered rebellions, and rewrote the rules of war itself. 7 cases that prove death by firing squad, hanging, or blade carries consequences that echo across centuries. If you value documented history like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Also comment from which city you're hearing this from. The script is researched and factual, using sources from the National Archives Military Records Division published in 2024, and the International Military Tribunal transcripts held at the UAS Holocaust Memorial Museum archives. These are primary sources that historians rely on for accuracy, not secondary interpretations. Now back to the information. Number 1, the San Patricio 50, 1847, Mexico City. 50 former American soldiers stood on Mexican gallows at dawn on September 10th through 13th, 1847. They had switched sides during the Mexican-American War, fought for Mexico as the St. Patrick's Battalion. Now they faced the noose as deserters. General Winfield Scott ordered the largest mass execution in United States military history. 16 hanged at San Angel on September 10th, 4 more at Mixcoke on September 11th, 30 at Chapultepec on September 13th. Timed precisely to the moment the American flag replaced the Mexican flag atop the citadel. The story began with religious hatred. American Protestant volunteers terrorized Irish Catholic immigrants in the ranks. Officers called them foreign scum. Soldiers spat on their rosaries. Churches were desecrated during the march south. When the army reached Mexico, Irish soldiers saw Catholic priests murdered, nuns violated, cathedrals burned. By November 1846, desertion rates among Irish units reached 12%. John Riley, the battalion's Irish-born leader, escaped hanging on a technicality. His desertion preceded the official war declaration. Instead, 50 lashes and the letter D branded on his cheek. The branding iron was heated white-hot. Riley screamed as the metal seared his flesh. But his men paid the full price. Mexico offered them land, money, and religious freedom, 200 acres per soldier, promotion to officer rank, protection for their families. They formed an artillery unit that proved devastatingly effective. The San Patricios knew American tactics, equipment, weaknesses. At Monterrey, they turned captured American cannons against their former comrades. Their green flag bore a golden harp surrounded by shamrocks and the words, "Erin, go brag, Ireland forever." Their numbers swelled to 700 volunteers, Irish, German, French. Polish deserters joined the Foreign Legion of St. Patrick. Their final stand came at Churubusco on August 20th, 1847. 85 San Patricios manned the artillery at the fortified convent. They fired until ammunition ran out. Mexican infantry tried to surrender 3 times. The San Patricios tore down white flags each time. They knew capture meant certain death. When Captain James Smith finally planted his handkerchief as a surrender flag, the San Patricios had no choice. The trials were predetermined theater. 72 deserters faced charges within days. No legal counsel, no transcripts. Defense arguments were ignored. Guilty verdicts took minutes. Death sentences were automatic. The 30 hanged at Chapultepec watched American forces storm the castle. Seeing their adopted flag fall as the nooses tightened, General William Harney declared, "I was ordered to have them hanged and have no orders to unhang them." The bodies rotted on display for days. Number 2, Jacques de Molay, 1314, Paris. The flames consumed the last Grand Master of the Knights Templar on March 18th, 1314. Jacques de Molay, 70 years old, bound to a stake on the Sand Island facing Notre Dame Cathedral. 7 years of torture had broken his body, but not his spirit. As the fire spread, witnesses heard his voice carry across the water, cursing King Philip IV of France and Pope Clement V, calling on God to judge his persecutors within the year. Both men would be dead within 12 months. De Molay's execution ended 2 centuries of Templar power. The warrior monks had grown wealthy protecting pilgrims and financing crusades. 9,000 Templar properties across Europe, annual income exceeding the treasuries of most kingdoms. They invented international banking, secure fund transportation. Pilgrims deposited money in Paris and withdrew it in Jerusalem. Wealth bred power. Power bred enemies. King Philip owed massive debts to the Templars. Conservative estimates put the royal debt at 1.2 million livres tournois. Philip's wars in Flanders had bankrupted the royal treasury. The Templars controlled French monetary policy through their banking operations. Rather than repay them, he accused the entire order of heresy. On Friday the 13th, October 1307, every Templar in France was arrested simultaneously. Over 600 Templars were taken from their commanderies. The charges were crafted for maximum public outrage: denial of Christ, spitting on crucifixes, worshipping a severed head called Baphomet, homosexual rituals during initiation. The allegations were absurd but effective. Public opinion turned against the Templars overnight. De Molay initially confessed under torture, then recanted, then confessed again. The torture was systematic: thumbscrews, strappado, rack, hot irons. For 7 years, interrogators alternated between physical agony and psychological manipulation. In March 1314, when commissioners sentenced him to life imprisonment, the aged Grand Master found his voice. Standing before the assembled crowd, he declared the Templars innocent, their confessions extracted by agony. Canon law was clear: relapsed heretics faced immediate burning. At sunset, de Molay was bound to a wooden stake. As the flames climbed higher, his curse echoed across Paris: God knows who is wrong and has sinned. Soon a calamity will occur to those who have condemned us to death. Pope Clement V died April 20th, 33 days after the execution. Philip IV died November 29th, 8 months later. Philip seized Templar properties worth 15 million livres tournois. Number 3, Eddie Slovik, 1945, France. Private Eddie Slovik walked to his execution at 7:45 a.m., January 31st, 1945, the only American soldier shot for desertion since the Civil War. 12 soldiers raised rifles in the courtyard of St. Marie aux Mines. 1 held blanks. 11 live rounds struck Slovik's chest. He died instantly. 24 years old, a replacement soldier who wrote his own death warrant in desperate honesty. The letter that killed him was dated October 9th, 1944. Addressed to his company commander: "I'll run away again if I have to go out there." Simple words, fatal words. Most deserters simply vanished. Slovik confessed in writing. He demanded a court-martial. The army gave him what he asked for. During World War II, over 21,000 American servicemen received sentences for desertion. 49 were condemned to death. 48 sentences were commuted. General Eisenhower personally reviewed every death sentence. He approved 48 commutations. He confirmed 1 execution. The army needed an example. American forces were bleeding replacements. Some units lost 8% of their strength to desertion. The Battle of the Bulge was 3 weeks away. Slovik's background made him the perfect candidate. Born in Detroit, Polish-American, married to Antoinette, criminal record, auto theft, breaking and entering. Draft board gave him multiple deferrals, but the army needed bodies by 1944. Basic training at Camp Walters. Shipped to Europe as a replacement in August. The replacement system was brutal. Individual soldiers were fed into units like ammunition. Replacements died at twice the rate of original members. Court-martial convened November 11th. 3 officers presided. Evidence was overwhelming: written confession, witness testimony, admission of intent to desert again. Slovik testified in his own defense. He explained his fear. He claimed he could serve in rear areas. The court deliberated 1 hour. Guilty verdict, death sentence. Appeals went to division, Corps, Army, Supreme Allied Headquarters. Each level confirmed the sentence. Eisenhower's final review took place December 23rd. The Battle of the Bulge had begun. German forces had broken through. Panic was spreading. Eisenhower needed to send a message. He confirmed Slovik's execution. 12 riflemen formed the firing squad. They were volunteers who knew Slovik personally. 1 rifle loaded with blanks to preserve uncertainty. His final letter to his wife: "They're going to shoot me tomorrow morning. I'm sorry, hon, but I just couldn't take it." The letter was censored. Antoinette never received it. His body was buried in Plot E among 95 other executed soldiers. Grave markers bore numbers, not names. The execution served its purpose. Desertions dropped immediately. Accused, tried, silenced. If you value documented history like this, subscribe. It's the best way to support our work. Also, comment from which city you're hearing this from. This script is researched and factual, using sources from Military Law Review published in 1994 by the Judge Advocate General's Corps, with additional documentation from The Execution of Private Slovik by William Bradford Hoy. These are primary sources used by military historians. Now back to the information. Number 4, Joan of Arc, 1431, Rouen. The 19-year-old peasant girl walked to the stake at 9 a.m. hours, May 30th, 1431. Joan of Arc had saved France from English conquest, crowned a king, changed the 100 Years' War. Now she faced death as a heretic in the old market square of Rouen. 300 spectators gathered. The pyre was 10 feet high. The fire was lit at 9:30. Her last words echoed across the square, "Jesus, Jesus, Jesus." The flames consumed France's savior in 40 minutes. Joan's rise began with voices at age 13. Standing in her father's garden in Domremy, she claimed to see St. Michael surrounded by brilliant light. The vision commanded her to drive the English from France and crown the Dauphin Charles as king. Over 4 years, the voices grew stronger. St. Catherine and St. Margaret joined Michael's commands. They gave her knowledge she could not possess. Her military genius lay in timing and psychology. She attacked at dawn when enemies were unprepared. She fought on religious feast days when soldiers believed God favored their cause. She carried a banner reading, "Jesus, Mary," instead of weapons. Her presence was worth thousands of reinforcements. At Orleans, besieged for 7 months, she led the attack on Les Tourelles. An English crossbow bolt pierced her shoulder. She pulled out the arrow, returned to battle, and inspired the final assault. Orleans was liberated in 4 days. The coronation at Rheims Cathedral on July 17, 1429, fulfilled her divine mission. Charles knelt before the altar as Joan held her banner. The sacred oil of Clovis anointed him King Charles VII. English claims became illegitimate. Joan had achieved the impossible through faith and tactical brilliance. Her capture came at Compiègne on May 23, 1430. Burgundian forces pulled her from her horse during a sortie. They sold her to the English for 10,000 gold crowns. King Charles VII made no attempt to ransom her. Politics trumped loyalty. The English needed Joan dead to legitimize their claim. If she spoke for God, their cause was doomed. Bishop Pierre Cochon presided over the trial. Pro-English ecclesiastical court. The charges included 70 counts of heresy, blasphemy, witchcraft, and wearing men's clothes. Joan defended herself without legal counsel against university-trained theologians. When asked if she knew she was in God's grace, she replied, "If I am not, may God place me there. If I am, may God so keep me." The question was a theological trap. Her response satisfied both possibilities. The court found her guilty. Sentenced to life imprisonment after she signed an abjuration document on May 24th. 4 days later, guards found her back in male attire. She had recanted her abjuration. Under canon law, relapsed heretics faced immediate execution. The execution was public theater. Joan entered wearing a white shift and peaked cap inscribed, "Heretic, relapsed, apostate, idolater." An English soldier made her a small wooden cross. Dominican friar Martin Ladvenu held up a processional crucifix throughout the burning. Joan asked him to continue praying until the fire consumed her completely. Executioner Geoffroy Therage later confessed he had never burned anyone of such holiness. Her ashes were scattered into the Seine to prevent relics, but martyrdom was complete. French resistance solidified. English momentum collapsed. Number 5, Thomas Highgate, 1914, Northern France. 17-year-old Private Thomas Highgate became the first British soldier executed for desertion in World War I. Shot at dawn, September 8, 1914. 35 days into the war, found hiding in a barn after fleeing the Battle of Mons, court-martialed without defense counsel, dead within 24 hours. His execution established precedent that would claim 305 more soldiers. Highgate enlisted underage lying about his birth date to join the 1st Battalion, Royal West Kent Regiment. The recruitment officer knew but needed bodies. Over 250,000 underage boys would serve in British forces. They forged documents, memorized false birth dates, practiced deeper voices. Everyone knew. Everyone ignored it. The Battle of Mons on August 23rd marked his first combat and broke his mind. 160,000 British soldiers faced 500,000 Germans. Artillery thundered for hours. Machine guns mowed down advancing infantry. Bodies piled in no man's land. Strategic withdrawal became chaotic retreat. Units became separated. Officers disappeared. Every man for himself. Highgate broke and ran during the afternoon fighting. Military police found him 40 miles away wearing civilian clothes. No memory of how he obtained them. Terror had erased his recollection. Fear had consumed his sanity. Battle had destroyed his courage. Sergeant Arthur Morris arrested him near Le Cateau on September 5th. Court-martial took place September 7th in a commandeered schoolhouse. 3 officers presided. No defense counsel was provided. Military law did not require representation. Highgate testified in his own defense. He explained his terror, described the artillery barrage, claimed he intended to rejoin his regiment. Evidence was overwhelming. Verdict was predetermined. Guilty. Death sentence. Field Marshal Sir John French approved by telegraph. The execution was public spectacle. 2 companies formed a hollow square to witness. A wooden post was driven into the ground. Highgate was bound with rope. A white target was pinned over his heart. He refused the blindfold. 12 men from his own regiment formed the firing squad. They had served alongside him. Military protocol required personal connection. Captain Harrington commanded, "Ready, aim." Fire. 12 rifles discharged simultaneously. 11 bullets struck his chest in a 6-inch circle. He died instantly. His body was buried unmarked. His family was told he died from wounds received in action. The lie was official. Records were sealed for 75 years. 306 more would follow him to execution stakes. Most were teenagers. Many suffered what we now recognize as post-traumatic stress disorder. They heard voices, suffered nightmares, trembled uncontrollably. Military medicine classified these symptoms as cowardice. Treatment was disciplinary, cure was execution. But the executions achieved their objective. Desertion rates remained manageable. Unit cohesion held. The British Army remained effective. Number 6, Herman Goring, 1946, Nuremberg. The Reichsmarshal cheated the hangman with a cyanide capsule hidden for over a year. Herman Goring crushed the glass vial between his teeth at 10:50 p.m. on October 15, 1946, 2 hours before his scheduled execution. The number 2 Nazi died as 10 other war criminals prepared for the gallows. His suicide robbed the Allies of their most prized execution. Goering's war crimes case was overwhelming. As head of the Luftwaffe, he ordered terror bombing of civilian targets from Warsaw to London. His pilots machine-gunned refugees, dropped incendiaries on hospitals, deliberately targeted schools and churches. His role in the Holocaust was direct. On July 31st, 1941, he signed the order authorizing the final solution. His signature appears on deportation orders, death camp contracts, and Zyklon B requisitions. The trial lasted 10 months. He was lead defendant among 21 Nazi leaders charged with conspiracy, crimes against peace, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. Chief Prosecutor Justice Robert Jackson called him the leading war aggressor and creator of the oppressive program against the Jews. Goering testified for 4 days, admitting most charges while denying moral responsibility. He defended Hitler's regime, justified aggressive war, explained the Holocaust as wartime necessity. The court found him guilty on all counts, sentenced to death by hanging on October 1st. His execution was scheduled for 6 a.m. to October 16th. The method was deliberately chosen for humiliation. Hanging was a criminal's death. Shooting was for soldiers. The Allies wanted to emphasize Nazi leaders were murderers, not warriors. American guards found his body during routine checks. Prison physician confirmed death by cyanide. Investigation revealed the poison concealed in a brass cartridge case. His suicide note read, "I would rather die by my own hand than be executed by my enemies. I have always had the death ampule since capture. It was my most sacred possession." He chose his death method. He denied executioner satisfaction. He maintained Nazi pride until the end. 10 others hanged that morning. Ribbentrop, Keitel, Kaltenbrunner, Rosenberg, Frank, Frick, Sauckel, Jodl, Seyss-Inquart, and Stryker. They died in alphabetical order at 15-minute intervals. Bodies were cremated at Dachau. Ashes scattered in the Isar River to prevent shrines. Even in death, Nazi leaders were denied respect. But Goering's suicide achieved what his life could not. He died on his own terms, providing his followers with a model of defiance. Number 7, Mary Queen of Scots, 1587, Fotheringhay Castle. The 44-year-old Scottish queen walked to the scaffold at 8 a.m., February 8th, 1587. Mary Stuart had spent 19 years as Elizabeth's prisoner, cousin to the English queen, descendant of Henry VII, former queen consort of France, anointed Queen of Scotland. Now she faced the axe as a traitor. She had dressed for death, black velvet with scarlet bodice and petticoat, the colors of martyrdom. Born December 8th, 1542, Mary became Queen of Scotland at 6 days old when her father, James V, died, sent to France at age 5 for safety. Married the Dauphin. Francis, in 1558, became queen consort when he took the throne in 1559. Widowed at 18 when Francis died in 1560. Returned to Scotland as reigning queen in 1561. Her marriage to Henry Stuart. Lord Darnley on July 29th, 1565, began her destruction. Darnley was alcoholic, bisexual, violently jealous. He demanded the crown matrimonial. Mary refused. The murder of David Rizzio on March 9th, 1566, shattered Mary's trust. Darnley and Protestant lords burst into her chambers, dragged her Italian secretary away, and stabbed him 56 times. Rizzio's blood stained Mary's skirts. Darnley's murder at Kirk O'Quay Field on February 10th, 1567, implicated Mary in regicide. The house exploded from gunpowder. Darnley was found strangled in the garden. James Hepburn, Earl of Bothwell, was the obvious suspect. Mary's marriage to Bothwell 3 months later destroyed her reputation. Public opinion assumed complicity in murder. Protestant lords rebelled. Mary abdicated, fled to England seeking Elizabeth's protection. Elizabeth faced an impossible dilemma. Mary was her cousin, anointed queen, fellow woman ruler, but Mary threatened Elizabeth's throne. Catholic Europe recognized Mary as legitimate heir. English Catholics might rally to her cause. Elizabeth chose imprisonment over execution. The compromise lasted 19 years. Her execution followed the Babington Plot of 1586. Anthony Babington organized 6 conspirators to assassinate Elizabeth and place Mary on the throne. The plot was amateur. Babington wrote directly to Mary. Mary wrote back approving Elizabeth's murder. Francis Walsingham intercepted the letters. Perfect trap. The trial took place October 14th, 15th. 36 commissioners presided. Mary defended herself skillfully, denying charges, questioning evidence, challenging jurisdiction over an anointed foreign queen. Verdict was predetermined. Guilty of treason, sentenced to death. Elizabeth delayed 3 months before signing the warrant February 1st. 300 witnesses gathered in Fotheringay's Great Hall. The scaffold was black draped, furnished with block, cushion, 3 stools. Mary prayed aloud in Latin, forgiving enemies. The executioner knelt requesting forgiveness. She replied, "I forgive you with all my heart. For now, I hope you shall end all my troubles." The execution was botched. The axe fell twice. First blow struck her head instead of neck. Mary groaned, "Sweet Jesus," but lived. Second blow severed her head except for sinews. When the executioner lifted the head by its hair, the wig came away. Mary's real hair had gone white in captivity. Her little Skye Terrier emerged from beneath her skirts, whimpering and licking her blood. Her body was buried at Peterborough Cathedral. In 1603, her son James became James Thorne of England. He ordered his mother transferred to Westminster Abbey, opposite Elizabeth's tomb. The queens who were enemies in life became neighbors in death. The executions revealed power's fragile nature. Kings fall, queens die, soldiers break, justice bends, but consequences endure. The San Patricios taught America that loyalty has limits. De Molay proved power devours itself. Slovik showed individuals pay for collective failures. Joan demonstrated martyrdom outlasts politics. Highgate warned war consumes its children. Goring illustrated justice finds its target. Mary reminded the world no crown provides immunity. In 1847, American forces discovered a mass grave near Churubusco containing 37 bodies in Mexican uniforms with Irish surnames on their belt buckles. DNA analysis in 2018 confirmed these were San Patricio battalion members who died fighting their former army. They chose death over dishonor, battle over betrayal, Mexico over America. History vindicated their choice. Mexico remembers them as heroes. America has forgotten them as traitors. The truth lies buried with their bones. Loyalty is earned, not commanded. Death reveals character. Justice demands witnesses.